let's kick off because we're going to have a very, very busy session ahead. And now, to open the conference, it's my pleasure to invite our first speaker on stage, Commissioner Raffaele Fitto, Commissioner for Cohesion and Reforms with the European Commission. Commissioner Fitto, you are very welcome. I'm going to step over here. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, representatives and stakeholders of our rural communities. It is a great pleasure to be here with you today and open the Rural Pact Conference with my colleague, Commissioner Hansen. Our rural areas are a cornerstone of our societies and economies. They cover around 3/4 of the European Union's territory and are home to over 1/4 of our population. Rural areas provide us with food, energy, natural resources, and cultural heritage. They are vital to our resilience and to the well-being of all Europeans. That is why this second Rural Pact Conference is so important. It gives us the opportunity to reflect and advance our long-term vision for the EU's rural areas. We do so in challenging times. We need to navigate a complex and aggressive geopolitical context, not just in Ukraine but beyond, strengthen our competitiveness in a fast-changing global environment, address demographic developments, including an aging population, and manage the lasting impacts of recent economic shocks from the pandemic to the energy crisis. In these times, Europe needs to come together and strengthen its resilience. And the rural areas are at the heart of this. Supporting rural areas is a high priority for the European Commission, and this is the goal of our Rural Action Plan. We want to foster stronger rural areas, home to vibrant communities, where stakeholders at all levels have the tools to provide innovative solutions, more connected rural areas, not just in terms of transport, but in terms of the digital infrastructures necessary for tomorrow's economy. More resilient rural areas, resilient to climate change, natural hazards, and economic crisis. And more prosperous rural areas attractive to companies and to workers. None of this can be achieved alone. Collaboration is key. We need to work together. This requires action and partnership across all levels of governance, local, regional, national, and EU, and coherence between different policy areas. These goals, a stronger community, more connection, more resilience, and more prosperity, are close to my heart, because since the very beginning of my mandate, I have made the right to stay the anchor of my work. And what is this right to stay? It is the right of every European to live and thrive in the place they call home. But this right does not come by itself. It requires action across many areas, fostering economic development, boosting competitiveness, strengthening sustainability, and attracting and retaining the younger generation. It means providing essential services and modern infrastructure so that no community feels left behind. To achieve this, we must create vibrant, forward-looking regions, places where young families want to build their futures, where people of every generation can find quality jobs, access quality public services, and enjoy a good quality of life. And while this right to stay concerns all regions, it carries particular importance for Europe's rural areas. And that is why we are here today, to ensure that you, as rural communities, play a vital and visible role in shaping Europe's future. For these reasons, we are planning to work with you on a strategy on the right to stay, with a focus on rural areas. Cohesion policy already provides strong support delivering significant investment in rural areas. It complements the support provided by the Common Agricultural Policy, which Commissioner Hansen will address in more detail. Through targeted investments, cohesion policy promotes economic, social and territorial cohesion by supporting investment in regional attractiveness, boosting regional productivity, supporting essential reforms, and advancing many other measures. Yet, despite our collective efforts, significant challenges persist and new ones continue to emerge. We face demographic decline, skill shortages, and the digital divide. And in too many regions, people still lack access to essential services, such as healthcare, education, childcare, housing, and public transport. These challenges are real, but they are not impossible to overcome. We are committed to support you. This is why the Commission has adopted the midterm review of cohesion policy to respond quickly and effectively to today's challenges. We are giving programs additional flexibility to support new priorities. The current cohesion programs were discussed between 2019 and 2021 and signed in 2022. Their implementation is only beginning in 2024-2025. But since 2022, the world has changed. So now Member States and the regions can use this opportunity to better align cohesion policy with the EU's new strategic priorities. The midterm review of cohesion policy gives Member States and the regions more option to direct funding on a voluntary basis to the most urgent needs now. We are providing incentives and flexibilities that support 5 priority goals: housing, water resilience, energy transition, competitiveness, and defense, while also accelerating implementation through simplification. We provide more flexibility, less bureaucracy. All this helps us respond to today's needs, improve spending, and prepare for a new way of managing European resources. We are also committed to learn the lessons of the talent booster mechanism. Since 2023, we are supporting 89 regions and cities in developing strategies to retain talent and respond to demographic challenges. With technical assistance, targeted funding, and access to knowledge via the Harnessing Talent platform. From this work, we have learned 3 important lessons. First, policymaking must better reflect demographic realities. Second, if we want young professionals to stay, we need holistic and joint strategies, addressing factors that make a region an attractive place to live and work. Third, we must move away from competing for talent to cooperating, sharing knowledge, and building solutions together. We will carry these lessons forward as we reflect on potential successors to the talent booster mechanism when it concludes in mid-2026. We also carry these lessons forward in our proposal for the new multi-annual financial framework. In July, as you know, we made a proposal to modernize and streamline this framework. This budget is based on 3 fundamental pillars: simplification, flexibility, and more effective use of funds. Our main objective is clear: simplification for beneficiaries. We want to build on the natural synergies between policies, creating a comprehensive and coordinated approach to rural support. Investment in connectivity and infrastructure, for example, benefit rural communities as a whole, while also supporting farming and other economic activities. It is no coincidence that within the Executive Vice Presidency, which I have the honor to lead, we coordinate the work of 3 commissioners: agriculture, transport and tourism, fisheries, and the blue economy. All crucial elements for rural areas. The Commission's proposal on the MFF is ambitious and should be seen as one that offers opportunities to find positive solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to the second Rural Pact Conference. This initiative is important to hear your voice and your input. We count on your knowledge and experience. Europe is giving you the tools to shape your future. I would like to thank Commissioner Hansen for the great cooperation and for his work. We will continue working with you in the coming months and years, and I'm sure that we will have a great opportunity to continue this common work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you very much, Commissioner Fitto. And now it's my pleasure to invite on stage our next speaker, Commissioner Christophe Hansen, Commissioner for Agriculture, European Commission. Commissioner.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I have to say I'm delighted to open this Rural Pact Conference alongside with my colleague and Executive Vice President Fitto. I'm also glad to see that since its launch in 2021, the Pact has grown and to a vibrant community of over 3,500 members from across sectors and governance levels, working towards sustainable rural futures. And as emphasized by Vice President Fitto, we need to ensure that rural areas remain attractive places to live. And this remains an absolute priority to this European Commission. And I have to say there are no rural areas without viable agriculture and forestry, and no agriculture without rural areas. And rural areas mean so much for us, and they are homes for 1/4 of the EU citizens. And for many more, they are places we want to go each time we have a chance to relax, to disconnect, and to enjoy nature, spend time with our families. But not only that, rural areas also mean business. And rural areas host cutting-edge technology businesses with promising proportions of rural startups in new sectors such as robotics, semiconductors, alongside food, transportation, energy, and they are also at the forefront of the bioeconomy, our new economy based on circular bio-based solutions, where we are as well working on a bioeconomy strategy in order to bring quality jobs and development even more to the rural areas. And rural means, as well, as I said, energy. You might have heard me talking about energy farmers. And why do I say that? 78% of our untapped renewable energy potential lies actually in the rural areas. And if we invest in rural energy in smart ways that benefit local communities and safeguard our land, we can green our energy mix as well. And rural, for me, also means security. Rural means as well independence. And you might have heard me also speaking about the defense farmers or the freedom farmers. I have had the opportunity to travel to the 3 Baltic states, for example, but as well to Finland with the Finnish Minister Sari here in the first row. And I have to say, when you go to those regions without agriculture and without forestry and the related rural development infrastructure, there would not be much left. And that, in my opinion, would represent a huge weakness as well for our physical security. And therefore, I believe that this links me as well to the essential, the very essential what we need in rural areas to make this all happen. And our rural communities need services, they need medical care, they need kindergartens, but they need also infrastructure and connectivity in order to encourage young people to stay, to move to rural areas, to work in rural areas, and these are also key to retain the young people and attract new ones in these rural areas. And you have all probably read the Vision for the Future of Agriculture and Food, where we clearly state another priority to this European Commission, which is the generational renewal in the agriculture sector. And therefore we need as well to give the rural areas the necessary services. And I traveled to Sweden, for example, where I met as well a young female farmer, and she told me, well, in my region I have to choose either kids or cows. And I said, why do you say that? But she said she's a dairy farmer. I have to drive 1 hour to the next childcare facility, so I have to drive 1 hour to get there, 1 hour to come back. And then in the evening, the same procedure as well. This is 4 hours just to get to the child facility. This is unacceptable, and it is impossible in that sense to make as well then to combine the private life and the professional life, and there we need to get better. And also, while our rural connectivity keeps improving, it is true, the urban-rural gap in broadband speed has actually worsened between 2020 and 2024. Funds and resources are available, but they need to hit better the target there. And this is of utmost priority, as with good connections we can attract also new part-time rural habitants and teleworkers to the rural areas that will as well be beneficial in general for the development and maintaining the population in our rural areas. I mentioned the vision for agriculture and food that I presented at the beginning of this year, and it commits to several rural actions. And for example, to update the EU Rural Action Plan, also to further develop the Rural Pact and the rural proofing, and to work on functional rural areas to reinforce approaches such as LIDA and as well smart villages. And we are working on all these actions, and this conference is the key moment for you to also share your views on the way forward on these priorities. And the Common Agriculture Policy plays, of course, a key role with instruments specially targeted to the rural needs. I think here, for example, of small-scale investment in basic services and infrastructures to support, as support to rural businesses, including as well startups, and support to local development strategies under the LIDA approach. And altogether, member states have programmed 25 billion of EU and national funds to support rural areas through the 2023-2027 CAP strategic plans. And here I am not counting the support going to the farming sector. And the new multi-annual financial framework proposes to bring all support under the national and regional partnership plans. And this will open the door for better leverage of resources, synergies and complementarities, and directing spending, as the new Executive Vice President Fitto rightly highlighted. And let me explain why I am convinced our proposals for 2028-2034 offer a fertile ground for better rural policies and effect on the ground. First, and this is very important, we retain all our current CAP instruments. And I have read reports after our proposals on the 16th of July that the next CAP will only be the 300 billion ring-fenced money. And I have to clearly say this is not correct. This ring-fenced amount is a minimum amount and it is dedicated to support the farmers' income. But we all know in this room especially that the CAP is way larger than just the income policy and the income support to our farmers. It is exactly beyond this income support where these synergies that I just explained lie, and where we can create as well win-win situations that serve both rural areas, regional economies, and our overall cohesion. And our current toolbox remains complete in the next CIP. And this means that member states will all have to continue supporting investments, rural startups and businesses, innovation, but also cooperation tools, and of course our cherished LEADER programs. And these community-led local development projects have proven their efficiency. And we know this, and this is precisely why we proposed to keep it mandatory for all member states to program LEADER. And for that, and for all their other rural needs, they will tap into the national and regional partnership plan. And this is how synergies will be happening. And I can assure you that the rural dimension will feature strongly in the national plans prepared by our member states. And because, and this is my second point, you will find among the objectives of the national plans the reduction of territorial disparities and the improvement of the living conditions in the rural areas. And member states will have to address these 2 points, and therefore I believe we can even go stronger ahead. And the third point, the multi-annual financial framework proposals emphasize the need for an integrated approach to rural areas, including to improve access to services. And this means that the national plans will need to demonstrate how this will be ensured. And our study on funding for EU rural areas published last year showed that countries where such integrated approaches exist address rural needs more comprehensively and way more effectively. My fourth point, member states must engage rural authorities and stakeholders in the design of the national plans. And this implies that needs and voices of rural communities will have to be considered for the planning of how public funds are spent. And the flexibilities provided in the framework of the future MFF allow the member states to best target the support to the actual needs of their territories. And finally, the rules on performance for EU spending foresee that operations supporting rural areas are clearly identified so we can better monitor the funds and their impact as well on the ground. And to conclude, it is clear that the national and regional partnership plans present opportunities for broader, more integrated support for rural areas, incorporating regional and social policies beyond the CAP. And not only that, under the new Competitiveness Fund and the Horizon Research Funds, we have a policy window and a significant funding for health, biotech, agriculture and bioeconomy. And here our rural communities, farmers and foresters can be in the driving seat in many of the innovative projects. And with all of this in place, I am very confident that we have all necessary tools, and I can assure you that the Commission will engage with the Member States to ensure that their plans go in the right direction for our cherished rural areas. And also, we are here today to listen, to learn, and to hear your view on how to make our rural areas to prosper for all our common future. And finally, on the Rural Pact, the Pact has produced many ideas inspiring member states and regions. And through this conference and in the upcoming months, activities organized under the Pact will help rural voices to be heard in the policy debate. And I warmly encourage you to fully engage today and to voice your needs and share as well your recommendations. And I wish you a very fruitful debate and many debates and exchanges today. And I look forward to the outcomes of your discussions. Thank you very much for your presence and your attention, and thank you for your engagement for our rural areas that represent for me, as I said, much more than just living in our rural areas. They provide as well for energy security, for physical security, for food security, and so on. So we have all interest to fight together for stronger rural areas in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, and I think very interesting to get both Commissioner Fitto's and Commissioner Hansen's views on rural areas and their future. So now we're going to get a citizen's perspective on what it's like to live in one of Europe's rural areas today. On this occasion, we're going to focus on Lithuania, and I'd like to now invite on stage from Lithuania, Lina Noreikaitė-Rimkienė, and forgive me if I have really butchered your name, but it is challenging. And Lina is a member of the Rural Pact community from Lithuania. She's going to give us a presentation now on what it's like living in a rural part of Lithuania. You can please come up on stage. I just want to make sure this is your clicker. And do we have Lina's slides ready to go? I'll just bear with you until we have them up on the screen.
Yeah, we have. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I begin, let me ask you something simple and personal. How much time do you spend in a car every day? For me, it took 2 or 3 hours, almost every single day. And soon, you will let you know why. My name is Lina, and I was born and raised in a countryside of rural Lithuania. It is truly an honor to be here at such important event where citizens have a chance to raise their voice and be heard. I would like to share my experience of living in rural areas and my hopes for the future. Mine is only one voice, but it reflects many others. People who live, grow here, work here, and take care of our rural territories every day. Like many young people, I left to study in a city, but unlike most, I choose to come back. And today I live in a small village together with my husband, who is a farmer, and our 2 sons, 2 very active boys. When I returned, I started a small hospitality business called Panekelpių kaimas. And at the very beginning, it wasn't a business at all. It was my expensive hobby. My vision was to create an experience like cooking together, tasting herbs, exploring what grows naturally on our land. And the beetroot became the heart of what we do. Together with our community, Pociūnėliai community, we started hosting educational workshops, tasting dinners, and events that celebrates this often forgotten vegetable. Through this focus, we revived not only the beetroot, but also our creativity and sense of community. As a result, our sales improved and costs went down. Support from our local action group was very important. And leader and similar tools near rural citizens can make a really big difference. But the truth is, most of us are not asking for €1 million projects. We just need a small support, just to seed money to start a small dream. If requirements are so complicated as for the big initiatives, many dreams will never get off the ground. There are many people like me across Europe, full of ideas, energy, and will. We just need a fair chance. But everyday life in rural areas can be demanding. The doctor in our village comes only twice a week. For my kids, to get a good education and after-school activities so I can work, I have to drive them for 3 hours, and also to reach these football trainings, I have to drive them for 3 hours. Almost every single day, I could spend this time in a more useful way, but still, there is no public transport. It also means that we need at least 2 cars in our family with all the costs it brings. And it's not only about the schools and doctors. We also need a supermarket, we need a shop, we need a cafe, we need a post office, reliable internet, and these are not luxuries. These are the differences between people staying or leaving. Let me be clear. Rural areas are not only asking for support. We are offering solutions. We have so much potential in our rural businesses, food systems, landscapes, natural resources to create jobs and prosperity of our communities. We also are a key building resilience against the climate change. And we already helped Europe to stay strong in time of crisis. Let's not forget, during the COVID, it was rural communities that kept Europe fed. The future of cities and rural areas are not separate. They are deeply connected. So what do we, rural citizens, ask of you, the policymakers and leaders? First, make rural areas a real place of opportunity to work, to live, and to grow old. Second, design the policies that reflect the diversity of all people living in rural areas, such as youth, farmers and businesses, doctors, teachers, newcomers, the elder, among many others. And third, guarantee the basics. A doctor, a school, a bus, a shop, reliable internet. Without these, no families will stay. Despite the difficulties, I believe in a countryside. In my village, we turned a humble beetroot into a reason to come together, to experiment and taste together and celebrate together, and also into a way to live the life we want, into the place we want. But our resilience alone is not enough. We need Europe to meet us halfway. So my message is simple. Don't forget us. Don't underestimate us. If Europe wants a strong future, it must put rural areas at the very center of its vision. I am not a policymaker, I am a citizen, and what I ask is simple. Ensure there are enough resources, enough attention, enough political will to make our rural areas a true place to live, to work, and to thrive. Because the truth is simple. Without strong rural areas, there will be no strong Europe. Thank you.
Well, now, Lina, I think you've set the tone of the next 2 days. What a wonderful presentation. What great messages. I'm sure many of the points you made will resonate with many people from rural communities here in the room and those joining us online. Does certainly for me. I grew up on a farm in County Cork in Ireland, so I'm very connected to the rural areas, and your situation will resonate with many, many people in other rural areas, from Ireland to Latvia to Poland to France. So thank you very much. And it's amazing how the humble beetroot can produce such fantastic cakes. So I'm going to be chasing you for the recipe afterwards. But thank you very much.